for instance, Paul Tudor Jones,
yes,
legendary investor and trader,
yes,
or Agassi, or anyone who's at the peak of their game and suddenly enters a slump.
yes.
What are the commonalities, if any, that you've spotted in the best of the best who then cease for a period of time being the best of the best? What triggers that type of downslope?
Well, everybody's got different triggers. There are some common patterns. And one pattern is doing so well that you go beyond your vision. And, it's the astronaut syndrome. What do you do when you're 31 years old, you flew to the top of the mountain, you've been on top, literally looked back at the earth and saw that picture we've all seen photographed, come back, shake the president's hand, have the ticker tape parade. And, okay, now what do you do with the rest of your life?
Right.
And so most of those astronauts, if you know their histories, they went through some really tough times. Some were alcoholics, some got addicted to prescription drugs. And so, in some cases, that's why I enter people's worlds, is they've done so well. They've called the market, almost hour by hour, a week in advance, and they made more money in a day than most people have ever dreamed of when everybody else lost their shirt.
Right.
And everybody's want to know what to do. Okay, I've done that. Now what do I do after I've called the market during the worst day in history? Most people lose momentum then, or they get distracted, because it's like, we need something to go for. We all need what I call a compelling future, something that will get us up early and keep us up late and excite us, at least the nature of a high performer. And if you don't have that, life feels very dead for those people. And so, the President of the United States, I remember Bill Clinton saying to me, I was with him in Aspen, and I was there at a fundraiser, and he asked me to come visit him, and he threw me in the car and said, come down the hill with me. It was one of those serene moments, and the lights are flashing. We come down Red Mountain in Aspen, if you know the area. And he's sitting across from me, and it's right after the blue dress incident had come out. And he says, Tony, it's just like, I'm still so young. He said, what am I going to do when I leave? I'm not, what am I going to do in my 50s? This is the wildest thing. I said, if I were you, I'd get the hell out quick, because he's talking about, I'd run a third time if I could. And I was teasing him about it. But he found a compelling future. And Bill Clinton today has something even greater in his life that he's going for. So the slump shows when people outrun their vision, or the slump can show when they meet their vision, but it's not fulfilling, or the slump shows when people just end up developing some patterns they're unaware of that cost them. And this can be such a small thing with an athlete that can occur. And sometimes it shows, like a Tiger Woods, when something happens in their emotional life. And while they try to say, I'm an athlete here and I'm a human being over there, they don't separate. And so what I got to do in those situations, regardless of what triggered it, is I've got to come in and get them to re-anchor in their nervous system what made them so effective. And you understand myelin, the idea that the more you do something, the more you wire yourself. It's like the myelin, the white portion of the brain. It's almost like if I do something over and over again, I literally wire myself with this myelin. It's like having high-speed, cable in there, or whatever the appropriate, I don't know what it is anymore, what high-speed really is these days, the proper term, but versus, having dial-up. If you do something over and over again, you can process so much more rapidly. So I will find where is that myelin in that person? What specific pattern will hook them back up again to that part of their brain where it's effortless, to that part of the brain where they instate and they don't even think. Andre Agassi was decades and decades ago. He'd been number one in the world. And all of a sudden he dropped, I don't know, it was number 19 or something at that stage. It's like 90, 91, 92, whatever it was. And nothing worked. And nothing worked because he kept working on his swing and he kept working on his wrist. And he was really upset with his father, who was his coach. Yeah. There was all these dynamics going nobody wants to talk about. He was actually to the point that he shared later on that he was thinking about quitting, playing the game. This was really early in his career. And, he's gotten injured. And Andre was very frustrated. And Brooke Shields brought him to me. They were just dating at that time. And he said, I don't need positive thinking. And he said, you know what? Tony's not positive thinking. He's going to show you these strategies. So he comes to me. I sit down with him. And I said, Andre, he's telling me about how he's doing this. I said, think of a time you hit the tennis ball perfectly. I said, don't think about it. Go to it. I got him in state, got him kind of in that place where the myelin's being fired off. And then I said to him, okay, you feel that? You feel that? Yeah. I said, were you thinking about your wrist? He says, no. I said, then how the hell would you think you would ever get back to that peak form of focusing on your wrist? Right? So I've got to get them back into the pattern that made it work. And then oftentimes I've got to help them resolve some other issue that's distracting them, that is something else in their life that's pulling them apart from peak performance.